Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council media briefing for week ending October 15, 2011. Following the reading of the national budget, Chief Secretary Orville London, along with Finance Secretary Dr. Anselm London, respond to Tobago's allocation. But first, Agriculture Secretary Gary Melville explains that his division has received $30 million and approval from the Executive Council to begin upgrading agricultural access roads throughout the island.
If you look in the budget estimates for Tobago, you will notice that in any given year, that the Division of Agriculture would normally be allocated somewhere in the vicinity of around $1 million for work on access roads. The Executive Council, in its wisdom and in support of the Division's trust for improved food security in Tobago, would have given approval for a sum totaling $30,734,000 to be spent over the next year in developing a number of access roads throughout Tobago. The list of roads affected at this point in time number 30 roads, and range from access roads at Richmond, Mason Hall Farm Road, Corland Access Road, Indian Walk Access Roads, Windsor Access Road in Mount St. George, Murchiston Road in Speyside to Luciville and Cassava Level, Louisdor, the Gosbo Pig Farm Road, Jongoli Access Road in Louisdor, Cameron Canal in Argyle, Job Trace, Belgarden, Charlotteville Observatory Road in Starwood, Shaw Park Road in Delaford, between Delaford and Speyside, Google Patch Access Road, Glamorgan Access Road connecting to Cardiff Access, Hilltop in Pembroke, Bushy Park Road, Putney Hill, Wild Dog Access in the Kendall Belgarden area, the Windsor Delaford Access Road, Campbellton Access Road, Hermitage, the Mount Dillon Rousseau Access Road in the Runnymede area, Roxburgh Station Hill Access, Lansfomé Forbes Trace, Louisdor, Paltevere Pine Hill, Gilpin Access Road in Louisdor, and the Argyle Invara Access Road. Of course, this is not exhaustive, and we will be working with the various area representatives and the farmers and fishermen in the various communities to try to upgrade that. We see the provision of access roads as being key to raising the level of agricultural production on the island, because it's not just about farmers having access to their lands to be able to produce crop or livestock, but it's also about farmers being able to transport their commodity when they're ready to harvest. And that becomes even more critical, because at that point in time is when we want to ensure that we have quality products coming into the market. The division is fostering a linkage with the Magdalena Hotel that would serve as a model linkage between the agricultural production sector in Tobago and the tourism sector. And of course, the quality of product required there would be of the highest possible standard. And you can only achieve this if you have good enough roads to be able to transport fresh produce that prevents it from bruising and so on. In addition to which, there are many farmers in Tobago who are expressing interest in making significant investments in types of livestock production where they would need to construct housing and so on, and transportation of materials for that construction becomes also critical. So that this initiative is a demonstration to the farming and also fishing community of Tobago about the sincerity and interest of the division that in the financial year 2011-2012, the division would provide the greatest possible support to the farming and fishing sector in terms of raising the food security of Tobago. And by providing access roads, in addition to a number of programs geared at upgrading extension services, as well as building relationships with farmer organizations, strengthening farmer organizations, introducing new technology. We are already working with CARDI and so on to be able to introduce lower cost greenhouse technology and so on into the farming sector in Tobago. We are trying to build upon some of our investments previously, such as the new tissue culture lab, that we have a goals bureau and which we shall be activating within the next 3 months or so. And with this combination of efforts, as well as most critically, the upgrading of the marketing department to be able to provide greater market access to Tobago farmers and the production from the Tobago agricultural sector, we expect that our goals of improving food security will surely be achieved in the period, and that these actions would definitely be a significant result to the Tobago agricultural sector and the Tobago population at large.
Responding to the budget, Dr. Anselm London described it as smoke and mirrors.
Minister Dukaran has good training in economics and has significant experience at the bank at the university. And I would have thought that given the kind of economic crossroads that this country faces at this time, particularly as it relates to what I may call the little fish, I don't think the budget did justice to them at all. The economists among us would describe it as lacking in the kind of macroeconomic dexterity that you would want to bring support to people at that end. And I think a simple test that you could put to the presentation is, if you're unemployed today in Trinidad and Tobago, how has the budget presentation of the minister affected your prospects for economic livelihood a year from now? Is there any hope in there for people who are today what you call the little fish? And I say very little, if anything. So the words are all fine and very good, but the bottom line implications for poor people in this country is not, they are not as satisfactory as they want. Now, with specific reference to Tobago, the allocation for Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly, I should say, is about $2.2 billion. It is about 55% of what we asked for to try to run this island over the next year. I do not think it is sufficient to do the things that Tobago wants to do now. And let me just give you an indication of the kinds of things. Everybody drives by the Claude Noel Highway, right? And you see the work going on the Shaw Park Cultural Complex. I could tell you we had a discussion up to today as to what it's going to take to finish that in terms of money. That's going to cost about $130 million to finish the roofing and the internal works and all the furnishings and equipment for Shaw Park. The allocation this year is $5 million. I'll give you another example. If you look at our scholarship program for young people in Tobago, it takes about $10 million, it will take about $10 million to run it this year. There's an allocation of $2 million. So here again you have another gap that has to be filled. I thought also that it was rather disrespectful of the central government not to have followed the practice in earlier years to report to us, the Assembly, as to what is going to happen to the 400 or 500 people or so who work at CPEP. You will recall that monies allocated for CPEP last year never came to Tobago, despite my request to the minister. Nothing was said about the CPEP workers in Tobago, and for them you'll need about $25 or $30 million next year to keep that program. Another example is, which is even worse, is the URP program. And every URP worker in Tobago should be quivering and wondering what is going to happen, because there was not a single word said about that. Yet, given the estimates from the Division of Infrastructure, you'll need about $60 or so million to run that. Let me also point out to you that when you look at the estimates and the kind of situation, the economic juncture that Tobago faces itself now, with issues in the tourism sector, we have a thing in the budget called a Tobago Heritage Land Trust. It helps you to buy land for Tobago people and keep those lands in Tobago's hands. One of the properties that we have been discussing for a while now is the Culloden Estate, and it costs significant amounts of money for the people of Lekoto and Golden Lane. We have an allocation of $2 million for that. Even in good Tobago, you can't buy much of an estate for $2 million. But to get back to the macroeconomic sensitivity of the budget, while I applaud what they say about the yet-to-be-installed Tourism Development Fund, as journalists, I invite you to call CNN and ask them, what is the cost of 1 minute of primetime advertising on Tobago? The budget that has been given to us cannot even buy 10 minutes of primetime advertising on a worldwide network for Tobago's tourism. So you see, the talk is nice, but it's the bottom line and how it affects individual Tobagonians. And that is what I worry about. I did not hear anything in the budget about the police station at Roxborough and at Grange. That's national security issues. There's a lot of talk about a free zone. Free for whom? And with whom did you have that discussion? We've been trying to have discussions for a while with them on things related to Cove. Those have not taken place. I would also be correct to raise with you the issue regarding the extension to the Claude Noel Highway. Where is that? But yet I hear a lot of noises in the House about the hospital and what have you. So the question is, how are we going to manage? You asked for $3.9 billion to do the work of Tobago over the next year. You got 2.2, what you going to do? Well, let me just say that if the answer to that question was easy, all you have to do is to buy the computer program and run the machine, and it'll give you the answer. But we are here, and we know how to guide this place over the next year. On behalf of my colleagues, I could assure you that the most important thing to people is income and employment. And this assembly will do everything, as long as we are here, to protect people's income and employment and get whatever productivity gains. In fact, as I speak, there is something on the table to provide an additional economic buffer in terms of employment for many of our youngsters in all fields, from masonries to PhDs and whatnot, who have come home from their training and do not have work or sufficient work.